Hi everyone, welcome back to Crypto Simplified. Today we will talk about the biggest issue plaguing the future of Bitcoin, the electricity consumption. Will planet Earth be left in a state of brimstone and hellfire and destruction, plague and pestilence because of Bitcoin? In this video we will have a look at that, answer all your questions about mining, electricity consumption, and what we can do going forward. So we start with an article at The Express, not exactly known as the most reputable of publications. If you see the first video on the side, oh, Prince William and Harry slap Benicio del Toro's bottom. So this article by Rebecca Pennington has almost all of its information listed from this article. So this is actually a much more reasoned approach, but it's still from the perspective of someone who hasn't really informed themselves about Bitcoin. The writer admits right in the beginning that he's been ignoring Bitcoin actively. That says enough, because something should have at least piqued the curiosity of someone who writes about the future of our planet. Something being done in both these articles is putting the power consumption of Bitcoin into the context of you being shocked. And yes, it does do quite a lot in that matter. It's quite surprising to see the amount of power actually used on a daily basis. So yes, it is informative, and this is also making people aware of it. People not necessarily in the Bitcoin scene are now aware that Bitcoin is quite an energy inefficient thing. If you were in the Bitcoin scene, you knew about this the whole time. If you ever explored getting into mining, you knew about this because a major factor in calculating your profits is the electricity cost. In India, we don't really have very cheap electricity. Where you do have cheap electricity, we don't really have very consistent electricity supply. So mining hasn't really been a thing that people were actively pursuing in India. Don't blame them, the financials simply do not add up. China does not have a monopoly on mining, by no means do they. Lots and lots of miners all over the world keep this system going. It is a highly decentralized system, and it's only going to keep getting more and more decentralized as more people get involved in the mining of Bitcoin. So in order to actually understand how this electricity aspect plays into Bitcoin, you need to understand what mining is all about. Mining involves really powerful computers making lots and lots of guesses to an answer to a really difficult math sum. The more powerful the computer, the more guesses it can make per second, and the higher your chances are of finding that correct number. The miner that finds the correct number gets a reward. This reward comes in the form of more Bitcoin. Just a few months ago, Bitcoin and its block reward made the news because the block reward halved. Currently, the Bitcoin block reward is 12.5 Bitcoin per block uncovered. One block is added to the blockchain more or less every 10 minutes. This 10-minute block time will stay more or less constant irrespective of the amount of miners adding computing power to the system. This is only possible because Bitcoin has a self-correcting method so that it'll try and keep it constant that there will be one block every 10 minutes. If this safeguard wasn't there, the valuation of Bitcoin will be going up and down like crazy, and you'll never really be able to use it as a currency because of its changing value all the time. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and as a result, it would be the most basic. Bitcoin was a proof of concept, so it could show that this can be done, and a major facet of this was this proof of work that uses a lot of electricity. The advantages of proof of work is that it's very easy to verify that the transactions are true. And the second major advantage to requiring this huge amount of computing power is that it's very difficult to defraud the system. In order to manipulate the Bitcoin system, you need to do a 51% attack. And that involves you controlling 51% of the computing power in the system in order to start rewriting old information. This is now becoming financially completely unfeasible because it'll take billions of dollars to generate anywhere near the amount of computing power in order to hijack the system. So this is actually a safeguard. This is one of those essential aspects of Bitcoin that make it so censorship proof. It's the spread of the miners contributing all this power to the system that makes it very difficult for one or two bad players to come in and completely hijack the system. There is no such thing as a perfect system, and this way of having this very easily verifiable type of transaction has its trade-off in the electricity cost. It's very easy to look at these electricity numbers and to see, oh my goodness, Bitcoin is absolutely going to ruin the world. So let's put this into a bit of context then. This is a fantastic article. I will attach the link. It's only a 6-minute read, but I will talk about some key points in a list that the writer has left. So it's very easy to make Bitcoin's power consumption sound huge. It's very easy. Bitcoin uses more energy than 116 countries. Bitcoin uses as much energy as 520,000 Canadians every single day. On the other hand, is the consumption really that big? Compared to the power consumption in the United States, Bitcoin consumes in a year what the US consumes in 19 hours. The Three Gorges Dam in China produces 3 times the amount of electricity that Bitcoin consumes. And here's the clincher. In 2015, Google used double the electricity that Bitcoin uses right now. So it's all about context. Saying that mining a currency that a lot of people still don't understand uses the same amount of power as an entire developed country makes fantastic headlines. But what it doesn't do is inform the people responsibly. So yes, the power consumption is huge. Undoubtedly it's huge, and undoubtedly it is an efficient network. But the inefficiency is designed as a facet of its security. So that's where we are right now. You've got to remember, Bitcoin is 9 years old. This is the first proper proof of concept that cryptocurrencies, uniquely identifiable digital goods, could be a thing. That was just the beginning. And yes, Bitcoin is the most visible cryptocurrency to this date. But there are so many other cryptocurrencies working on different solutions to this energy problem. But before we look at that, let's see how we can work within the means we already have, within the technological constraints that we already have. So let's look at power generation in the world. How far away are we from a 100% renewable energy grid? It goes without saying that we don't really have enough energy to go around right now. There are lots of people in the world who do not have access to any electricity, so not even get to 24-hour electricity. We need to generate more power. We do rely on coal-fired power plants as well as a fair amount of hydroelectric power in order to generate the energy that we need on a daily basis. What this deficit of power does is that it gives reason to believe that yes, we shouldn't be closing down these coal-fired power plants just yet, because why would we reduce the power that we have when we actually need more? So what you can do is actually add to it with a renewable energy grid. Just to get some context as to how little of this planet we need to cover in order to generate power, just look at those little green dots on the map. So with just a little bit of space, that is a few million square kilometers on this planet, that's it. The whole world has solar power. But we don't need to go 100%. We have offshore windmills. Wind speeds in the ocean are far higher and far more consistent than on land. So if we put solar panels in the hot, landlocked, sort of desert and arid conditioned parts of the world, and if we put offshore windmills on the coastal areas, we can easily generate enough power for the entire planet and some. So if you combine this with what we already have as coal-fired power plants, which will eventually all shut down, then we'll have nuclear power plants. A lot of the nuclear technology that we use is fairly old. A lot of this needs to be phased out, replaced, and improved. Fusion power is seen as the holy grail of generating electricity. There are a few technological hurdles behind that, and we have achieved fusion power, but currently we are still putting in more power than we're getting out. Over the years, as it will develop, this could change. Same thing with thorium power. People have been talking about this a lot. The future will not have one source of power to power the world. We currently don't have that, so why would we expect this to happen in the future? So with a diversified, renewable energy grid, we can easily power the planet. It is possible to not destroy this planet while maintaining the exceptionally high levels of power consumption with Bitcoin. These levels of consumption will probably go up as the difficulty increases because there are more miners joining the network. So if you were not convinced by those earlier statistics on offshore windmills and solar panels actually being able to power the planet, think of it this way. What if every single window on every single building got to generate electricity? This ties in really nicely with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency's decentralization idea. Why not everyone generate a tiny amount of electricity, and why don't we make power plants obsolete? These plans are still in the prototype phase. There's a very long way to go before this is readily available consumer tech. However, this shows that people are thinking of this as a potential future way of solving our power crisis. Smart windows, it just seems like an absolute no-brainer. If you've got skyscrapers going hundreds of feet up into the air, that's hundreds of feet of solar power catchment area. However, just instead of running your miner off a renewable energy grid, why don't you take the miner to the power station? This is an Austrian-based company called Hydrominer, and they set up your mining rigs on top of hydroelectric plants. So it goes without saying, the biggest advantage of this is that you don't need to actually transport your energy. You can just start mining it where you're harvesting it. It's ideas like this that will just keep happening because it is a very, very well-known fact that the electricity consumption of Bitcoin is a major weakness. So there are lots of ways that you can combat this. This is just one. And this is maintaining the existing status quo. It's not challenging the fundamental that why does Bitcoin need to use so much energy? This is a scenario that was actually brought up a few years ago in 2014. Even back then, we knew that the power consumption would be a problem. An alternative to the proof of work system was created. This was called proof of stake. Staked coins are kept locked in a wallet. The user cannot spend them, but what they are doing is dedicating their coins to keep the network running. As a result, you will be incentivized with a certain percentage of transaction fees that you help push through the network. So while you're not mining and creating new coins, like in a proof of work system, it is because you don't need to. A massive expense of these proof of work coins is actually paying for your hardware and electricity. You often pay for that by cashing out your block rewards, i.e. the coins that you've worked so hard to mine. So what this does is it reduces the need for a huge number of coins, as well as reducing the need for a very, very expensive electricity-based system. Yes, you will still need electricity to run this, but nowhere near the same amount. It also creates means for passive income. You just need to stake your coins, leave them alone, make sure your wallet is always connected to the internet, and then get your payout every now and then. You get paid for just owning your coins. So this is actually a way to incentivize people to keep their coins in the system, because the more coins that are being staked on the system, the harder it is to defraud the system. A lot of the coin projects are trying to integrate proof of stake in some way or another. Ethereum forked fairly recently, and that was to enable a store of proof of stake on their system to reduce their electricity costs. Then you got Cardano, which is a complete proof of stake system, but they haven't enabled staking yet. That's because they want to ensure that enough different people are holding the coins before they actually start enabling staking in order to make sure that the system is secure and tamper-proof. So I shall finish with this tweet. What we are seeing is massive, massive energy consumption. That is undoubted. Yes, there is a lot of energy being consumed. It's wasteful but almost necessary at exactly the same time, because what we have is something we've never had before. We've truly found a way to get rid of middlemen in our financial system. What we have is complete financial independence from banks, and we have a system that does not need trust to function. The system works because of consensus, and this is something that we've never had before. So yes, if we do have a decade or so of teething problems regarding electricity, it's just one of those steps to development. No system is perfect, but you only get better through time. This is one of these massive things that we do need to improve on. Improvements will come. That is why we have an altcoin market. People like the idea of Bitcoin. They like what it does, what it can do, and what it implies. But now what we need to do is tweak the little things to make sure that Bitcoin is as efficient going forward as possible. If something does manage to dethrone Bitcoin, maybe the electricity consumption of this new coin might have something to do with it. But what we do have is a proof of concept as to what is possible. The inefficiencies will be taken out. We are all learning. This is a brand new industry, and you cannot nitpick on things like this. If you want to think about environmental damage, look at the electronics industry, look at all these other industries that are actually damaging the planet, and a lot less is being done to stop that. In the oil industry, fracking is on the rise. Fracking is objectively bad. There are more earthquakes. There is polluted water. But why aren't people doing anything about that? So it seems like people just have an agenda against Bitcoin, and it's totally fine, because every challenge that Bitcoin faces and overcomes, it just shows that it is good. It is an actual self-contained system that is better than what we currently have. So that's it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think about this point of view. Do you think that the energy problems facing Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a real, valid, insurmountable problem? Do you think that people are blowing things out of proportion? Do let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do tell your friends. This is Marv from Crypto Simplified signing out. You guys have an awesome rest of the day, and I'll see you soon.